I think it's fair to say that the SH Monster Arts Shimo figure has been probably the most controversial figure in a long time for the line. And while I myself decided to skip it because it was far too expensive and I just really haven't been enjoying the conversations around it, generally speaking, what I'm seeing is that the folks who are getting it in hand are tending to enjoy it more than they initially thought they would. And of course, I'm speaking broadly because there appear to be at least a couple of really big outliers within that data set. While this conversation has been rather volatile, I do feel like it's about to get even worse, and in some ways has gotten a little bit worse with the release of the new Stylist series Shimo figure from Hya Toys. So I'm going to switch over to a couple photos that I've got here. So here is the Exquisite Stylist Shimo figure, which is really a statue. And right away you can see next to the SH Monster Arts figure, the Stylist is just as large as the SH Monster Arts figure. And this is pretty surprising because in all of the promotional material leading up to this figure's release and to the Exquisite Basic Shimo release, we've been under the impression that that Shimo figure will be a little bit undersized based on the measurements that were put out in the official solicitation and those initial prototype photos that we saw in person in China. So for this statue to release and to be the same size as the SH Monster Arts is a surprise, but it's also giving people a little bit of hope for the Exquisite Basic figure, that hopefully it will be in a similar scale to the SH Monster Arts. Now, this was a little bit confusing, this mindset, at least to me and a couple of other folks that I've spoken to at first, because I was always under the impression that the Exquisite Stylist series was larger than the Exquisite Basic series. And doing a little bit of digging, talking to Michael, as it turns out, the Godzilla vs. Kong Stylist series was in fact at the 8-inch mark. So those statues were larger than their Exquisite Basic counterparts. Somewhere along the way, Hya quietly transitioned the Exquisite Stylist series back to 7-inch scale. And so the statues that they're releasing in that line should be, in theory, of comparable size to the Exquisite Basic counterparts. Now, if we take a look in comparing the statue to the Solicitation, there are, I think it's worth noting that there are a couple of things. The paint deco, like the blue streaks down the side and down the tail, those do seem to be completely deleted from the statue, which is unfortunate, right? And then the actual statue comes with a crystal base that you can attach, I guess. But the thing that I want to get through here is that the statue was marketed as 6 inches and 17 centimeters high. The actual figure is larger than that. And we can prove this by looking at the comparison next to the Exquisite Stylist Godzilla Evolved. So you can see that she sits just a nose under the Godzilla Evolved statue, but the Godzilla Evolved statue sits at about 7 inches tall. So the actual Stylist Shimo that's coming out is slightly larger than what was than the measurements that were provided in that initial solicitation. And this is an important deal, right? Like maybe they just got it wrong during the solicitation, or they actually went back and upgraded the size of the figure. Both of these things are on the table. We don't actually know, but it does seem like this figure is going to be larger than we were initially led to believe. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on who you are. I think it's good that the figure is actually larger in scale, because I do feel like the size of Shimo played a huge role into how much of a threat she was in this movie. So here you can see she is actually quite larger than we were led to believe. Now, if this is also going to be the case for the Exquisite Basic Shimo, then it calls into question what the actual size of the Exquisite Basic Shimo is going to be. Is it that their initial measurements were wrong, or is it that they've actually gone and upscaled her? I know that from Wonderfest 2024, there were some folks that were looking at the black plastic prototype that was on display and saying, no, they made her larger, even though it was really hard to tell from those angles. And I just wanted to mention that way back when these figures were initially being solicited, Michael over Articulation Series made these mock-ups just to show the size differential between the Monster Arts and the Hya. And based on what those measurements were, these cutouts were fairly accurate at the time. But now that we're seeing that the Exquisite Stylist is bigger and actually in line with the Shimo from Monster Arts, now people are going and digging this up and saying like, oh, like, you know, this whole conversation was being fueled for nothing. And it's not that it wasn't being fueled for nothing. Like, here is the solicitation, like 17 centimeters. This is how big we were told that she was. And then here you have her next to the Kong prototype, which was officially shown off by Hya Toys. And when we talked to Alan Henry, the person who played the motion capture and recorded it for Kong and Scar King, even he was looking at this and saying, yeah, like Shimo's dramatically undersized here. So it's not like Michael and the rest of us were pulling this out of our ass and trying to cause an alarm for no reason. We were just saying like, hey, like based on the official measurements, yeah, she's gonna be a little bit smaller than we hoped for. Now, you know, let's all hope that she is in fact actually larger and that maybe they did go and they upscaled her, or potentially that the initial solicitation was in fact wrong. I can believe that this was wrong, just because Hya has been kind of hit or miss with those finer details. The most obvious one being Godzilla re-evolved, right? Like this somehow made it through everything and landed in your hand. I think the box even ended up saying Hya re-evolved or Godzilla re-evolved. But even now, like, look at the stylist box. The word stylist is spelled wrong, right? Like there's an L missing. So, you know, Hya does make great stuff for their price point, but it's in some of those finer details regarding solicitation where either things are being omitted or mistyped or just, you know, not correct, or things are being changed after the fact. Like we've seen changes being made to things like Godzilla 2014, Godzilla Evolved, without really telling us. They just put products on display and then they leave us to figure it out. Hya has gotten a little bit better with their communication, but I would still say that there's a little bit more room to get there. So all of that is to say, if the Exquisite Stylist statue is anything to go off of, it does look like there is hope that the Hya Exquisite Basic Shimo is a little bit larger than we were initially led to believe. Whether that was always the case, which I don't believe was always the case based on this photo here and the initial solicitation, or they actually did go after the fact and they made the sculpt larger. Part of me does wonder though, like how much larger you can make Shimo like on your own dime. Like you've already solicited the figure for $60 and people have been buying it. Like it's going to cost money to make her larger. And I don't know if they're just going to find other ways to recoup those costs or if they're just going to pay it out of pocket. Like I'm looking at the actual final product for the Shimo statue, and I would say that the paint applications are not quite up to the standard that the solicitation led us to believe. Could it be that in order to make her larger and still come in at the right budget, they had to pull back on some of these paint applications? I don't know. It's something that we'll never know. I really wish that this figure wasn't, this character even, I just wish there wasn't so much like friction around it. You know, there's gonna be 2 market options out there. Pick up the one that suits you. And here's hoping that the Exquisite Basic Shimo does come in closer to the correct size for your display. So that's it. You know, I'm not going to be picking up the Stylish Shimo because I don't really collect statues, with the obvious, not the obvious, but the exception being the Odo Island Goji, because I don't really have too many options for that one. If you want to see a review on that, let me know. But I do have Exquisite Basic Shimo on the way whenever it does ship, and I will be taking a look at that one. And I'm really looking forward to it because I really liked Shimo. I really like Shimo as a character, and I'm looking forward to having a figure on my shelf that doesn't cost $240 US. So that's going to be it. Just wanted to make this video to say we really don't know what's going on with Hya's Exquisite Basic Shimo. And if anybody pulls this image up and is a way to say like, oh, Articulation Series was just making a fuss, you know for a fact that that is not the case. We are just going off of what Hya has told us and shown us, rather than just like vibes, right? Like people say like, oh, it's gonna be fine. That's just vibes, right? We're just theorizing based on what we've been told and what we've seen. So that's gonna be it from me. Curious to hear from you. Are you gonna be picking up Hiya Shimo? Are you gonna be picking up the Monster Art Shimo? Are you not picking up any Shimo because you don't like the Monsterverse? Let me know. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.